Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode with us here at Voice of the East, where we highlight ideas, people, and conversations that shape the future of the Southeast. Thank you for joining us today. Getting right into conversation, we have here with us today a man who serves in the public service, and not just to occupy position, but he's there to make real impact, real change. He's focused on reforms and bringing about developments in that space. He is Mr. Mark Okoye. He currently serves as the MD and the CEO of the SEDC Southeast Development Commission, where he leads conversation and actions around infrastructure, around development and economic growth of the Southeast. And of course, prior to that, he has served as the commissioner in Anambra State. And he has earned recognition as the youngest commissioner in Nigeria. Really impressive. Thank you, sir, for being here with us.
Thank you, Ms. Sommer.
And thank you for allowing us to pull you in on a public holiday when you should be resting from all the good work that you're doing.
The name is called public service. So it's a sacrifice that you have to make for the wider populace. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I trust your day is up to a great start too.
Well, excellent. Just working on 4 hours of sleep. Had about 3 meetings this morning. Yesterday was the post sort of event wrap up. So quite a number of people were in town. So quite a lot of media engagement. So I was with AFIA for about an hour yesterday. Met with the civil society organizations from the Southeast, about 57 of them across the different 5 states. Had a number of other meetings with some strategic institutions that want to collaborate and support the venture capital program. So oftentimes people think it's an event, but right after that, that's where the business starts. So so we haven't really had a public holiday. My wife and my kids are judging me for it, but it is well.
And there was Children's Day just yesterday.
Can you imagine?
I hope you sent messages and stuff to them.
I didn't. Yeah, so
you're definitely in trouble.
I have to make up for it. So I think tomorrow, when I go, I will go and just block out everything and give them quality time.
The time they deserve. All right.
Yes.
By the way, for the event, congratulations on hosting and pulling off such a large event. It's the first Southeast Venture Capital pitch event, right?
Yes.
It's really massive. And I got some feedback from friends that were there, and they described it as a very smooth, professional and fair event, and that's really impressive. Thank you, and congratulations once again. So what do you think about the companies that pitched, both those who won and of course those who didn't? What do you think about those companies?
Well, I must also probably just start by thanking you for the compliments, and I think for the last 2-3 days all we've been getting is live and direct feedback from people who are either associated with the companies that pitched, or people who just had friends, or people who were sitting in the hall. When we set up last year, and very quickly went into, work mode on building a new institution, we spent time, myself and the executive directors, thinking around what are the problems in the Southeast, how do we solve them, how can we lend our voice and our platform to solving them. Southeast has 95 local governments, has 35 governors, has the private sector, has the diaspora, has the enterprising spirit of the people, has brains. So these things are all great in different silos. If we try and knit them together, we could have something really powerful here. But it's going to take time because we never had it, right? But as we put together what we call our strategic roadmap, which is online, people can sort of see the guardrails, the frameworks that we're looking to work on for the next 3-4 years. We felt there was a need to go in with what we call some quick win initiatives. 3 of them. One was the Southeast Venture Capital Fund program. The second was the Southeast Investment Company, so the thinking around it. And the third was the Southeast Grassroots Sports Development Program.
Did you say sports?
Yes. Okay. So for these 3 initiatives, because we were just starting, no funding at that time, no staff, no nothing, all we just had was an act that says this is why we were created. We decided to open a volunteers platform. And that platform essentially grew to a database of almost 3,000 people over 2-3 days. People who said, I want to contribute my ideas pro bono. So we searched in there, got some 1 or 2 recommendations and put together a committee called the Southeast Venture Capital Program Pro Bono Advisory Committee. mandate is for them to design a conceptual framework for the program in 4 weeks. And our own contribution is that we'll take it and implement it T for T. And that's essentially what happened. So what you saw in the last 2 days actually started over a year ago. You had people like Emeka Afibo, who's in San Fran, who was on the committee. You had Somachi Chris Asoluka from Imo, MD of Tony Elumelu Fund. She was on the committee. Innocent Iziche, former advisor to the central bank, and a number, and obviously John Onibo, Arinze Chilaofe, a few people from the ecosystem here. We put them together. And essentially, they put forward a program that, in my view, aims to solve a very, very pressing problem we have. We have young, bright people scattered around the Southeast, great innovation, great energy, great talent, but they are forced to migrate to other places in search of opportunities. Because there's no structured program that they can go to, right, and be assessed on a transparent, credible process, and that can give them funding to take their ideas to minimum viable products. So we decided to use this as that platform. But for us, sustainability was also important, right? So the idea here is really to see how we can raise the funds upwards of $50 million. But the commission is probably putting 1 or 2 or 3 just to start, and then getting commitments from private sector. Some state governments are looking at it and are very interested in investing. Some other government agencies want to invest. International development funds also want to invest. Private sector from the region and outside the region also want to invest. And we just felt that we should do a soft launch just ahead of the capital, the fundraising. Let's just do a soft launch and do a pitch competition. Now, we discussed extensively between the management and the board. And because I needed to give this background so I can then answer your question. We felt that for everything in our plans that concerns young people, we owe it to Nigeria, we owe it to those young people, we owe it to the future generations, that things like that should always be credible, transparent, and merit-based. So I can speak confidently, I can boast about it, that all the people who participate in this process, from 1,200 startups that applied to the 30 or so startups that got support, and yesterday or 2 days ago, there was no influence from nobody. To run the process, it was an SEDC, funded by SEDC, but outsourced to the best and brightest companies and advisors along the way. The judges were all pro bono advisors. We were not
they were the volunteers?
Yes, the judges were also volunteers. The companies who are doing the screening, be it Genesis Hub from Enugu, Startup South, the Garage, they're all just volunteers. Nobody was really paid. They just did this, because they also bought. Because for us, the most important critical success factor is that everybody who participates in it and wins believes that they did it on their own strength, on their own volition. Yeah. The second it feels like you called a senator and the senator called Mark and you got it, that's the beginning of failure. So that's what we wanted to do. And I'm glad that we achieved it 100%, actually. Which is why when they ask me about the companies, I try and remember, because I met those companies just 2 days ago in the hall, but I would say probably the most fascinating one that was very exciting was the 2 young men who are farmers in a very small community, I think somewhere in Enugu. I don't know if you remember here, the agriculture one, who are creating an insurance-based digital platform to support the development of the agriculture sector. I found them very interesting because obviously it just tells you when you run a process and it's credible, what it unearths. One of them was special needs, but I can tell you he was probably the most brilliant guy I saw on stage that day. I almost knew that he was going to win it because the way his brain works and the product that they had built. If I have some money, other than Southeast Asia, I'll probably call them and say, let me make an investment in them. The second one was a very confident young man called Kiva, an app that, in my mind, I think maybe a fintech based on WhatsApp that allows you to do transactions through WhatsApp. I like his confidence. I like the boldness of his idea, and I like how he also challenged the judges when they ask questions. And obviously a few others. I sat there for 8-9 hours, but was popping in and out. But I think over and above, it was just a pleasure to see something we dreamt about, we thought about, conceived it, worked with the private sector, and we saw it sort of start taking its baby steps. When we speak of sustainability and systems, Ms. Omar, the easiest thing to do, right, is for us to just say there's money in the account, ring a bell, who wants funding, share the money and go. But when you want to build systems that become sustainable, you have to think end to end and be very intentional. It will take time, maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months. But when you launch, you sit back and it works on its own, with or without Mark, with or without SEDC. It continues to impact people. And that's essentially where we have to raise the development conversation to in the Southeast. Move away from ad hoc micro interventions to well thought systems, programs, projects that are sustainable. Yeah.
So talking about sustainability, is this a one-off event, or do we expect it to be an annual something next year? Another event?
Yes, so for us, we're hoping that we can do this once a year, possibly, when we see the traction. The traction we're seeing in terms of the other partners who are now saying they want to invest in the fund. I think in 2.5 months, we would have 2-3 months, we should have clarity on the size of the fund, right? And I'm almost certain that obviously, when other investors come on board, it is not a decision SEDC takes, because recall that the structure of the fund is not an SEDC fund. SEDC, after 2 months, went back to Mr. President last year, after 2 months after we were set up, and asked to create the Southeast Investment Company, an investment holding company for the Commission, which allows us draw capital and raise funds from the private sector, from the capital markets, from people like Ms. Omar, right? Ms. Omar, when the opportunities come, you can carry your 300,000, 200,000 and invest in something.
I'm not going in millions.
1 billion even, you can bring, we'll be able to take it, And so it is that entity, Southeast Investment Company, that goes on to create a special purpose vehicle that then has the Southeast Venture Capital Fund. Now, in that vehicle, all these other interested investors are going in there. So it wouldn't be only controlled by us at SEIC. We'll have other people. But we hope that we should actually be able to do this multiple times a year, at least once or twice. I think because you see what it does to the energy of the young people. Yes, I saw the excitement in the hall, and it's just amazing. So, but other than the competition, the Southeast Venture Capital Program is also going to get a regional office in the Southeast.
Okay.
The participating states are also going to get state offices. Because what those offices do is, whilst we're doing a call for application, in true venture capital fashion, those offices should also go and be sourcing for opportunities to invest in, meeting people who have good companies that need to be scaled.
Okay.
Exactly.
I see.
So this is the system that we are talking about building. Those offices should also be there. And when we say offices, we don't mean 10 floors. It's tech, for Christ's sake. So 2 people in 1 or 2 rooms, you can come in. Ecosystem events will be done in such offices. People can also come in for inquiries. There are more than 9 venture capital funds, right? 3 global venture capital funds, 6 local venture capital funds that were in the hall that day. All of them are saying, and they're not from Southeast. They're not Southeasterners. What were they saying? Please, we want to come. We have this big event coming, but we want applications and startups from the Southeast. So please, can we come to your offices and do some activation events to encourage young people to apply to programs in Lagos, apply to programs in San Fran? We're activating the ecosystem, and that's what is just being done. So, yes, there's the call for applications and pitch competitions, which will be some, landmark event and what have you. But there will also be rigorous and aggressive deal sourcing, looking out for opportunities, and people who you can invest in and scale them.
Okay. So it seems the focus on tech and emphasis on tech. What about other business ideas that don't exactly fit into the tech umbrella. We have Voice of the East. Can we also pitch? Is there an event for us as well?
So again, as you know, the agency is nascent. It's just starting, right? And I did mention to you that one of the quick win concept frameworks that we were trying to put forward was the Southeast Investment Company. So the same thing we did for Southeast Venture Capital Program, we did for the Southeast Investment Company. Put a committee of the best and brightest from the region and outside, who are in corporate finance, in legal, in public-private partnerships, to think through the structure. We took the feedback of what the concept document they had prepared, we summarized it, put it in a memo, and presented it to Mr. President, and under 3 days he approved that. That's how interested he is in alternative ways of financing things, because, Ms. Omar, I'm just telling you, government, looking at government and expecting government to have the funds to cover and solve all our problems, take it from me, it will never happen. The Southeast today, any of the lovely countries you see around the world, if we want to compete with those countries in 20 years, we have to spend about $10 billion on infrastructure every year. Every year. The total monies that the states get in FAC and what have you, the monies that our agency gets is not up to 8% of that amount. So the question that we are constantly seeing, we're constantly, spending time thinking about is, how do you fill that funding gap of $9 billion a year? We know diaspora remittances was $25 billion last year. 25% higher than what Nigeria made from oil. In that $25 billion, at least 4 or 5 comes to the Southeast. But it's building small projects, paying for school fees, building hotels, doing this and doing that. We have to find a way to present a credible platform that allows us to take a bit of those diaspora remittances and invest it in power projects, invest it in creative economy funds, invest it in gas pipelines, invest it in transportation corridors, invest it in toll roads, etc. That's how modern economies are built. Find ways to catalyze funding to support this. So to your point, the way the SEIC is going to be structured, the SEDC, the Venture Capital Fund, is not the only fund that it would birth. It falls in a box called Enterprise Development Funds. And all these frameworks are on our website for people, I'm sorry, but people don't like reading. That's the problem. That's just the problem. You're a journalist, you're a brilliant young lady, and I can see you did research. But the wider young people, they just read 2 lines and boom. But all these things, 70 pages, 30 are online for people who want deep understanding. So SEIC has 4 boxes. One box of focus is infrastructure. How it's going to look at conceptualize big infrastructure projects, unbundle it and break it in for our people to be able to invest. Okay. The second box is enterprise development funds, funds that support and scale sectors. So one of is the venture capital fund. There's another one for SMEs, right, that we're currently working on with BOI. Okay. There's another one for the creative economy, right, for creatives in the region.
So for us.
No. There's going to be a few intervention funds. I have one of our biggest and best and brightest brothers from Lagos, who's from Anambra, but owns one of the bigger fintechs. He's just purely focused on funding. He says, Mark, just give me the platform. I will bring my own money for creative economy, right, to ensure that those companies get the necessary support they need. So just be calm. There's a lot. There's a lot in store.
Okay. So we're calm. This event, the venture capital event, how does it fit into the mandate of the Southeast Development Commission?
No, it does. So essentially, the roadmap that we put forward early last year. It's
on your site, right?
Yes. It's a strategic roadmap that just touches on, it basically says this is the vision, right? Okay. These are some of the 3-4 strategic drivers of that vision. Mm-hmm. And then these are 8-9 programs that we are looking to implement. So it's one of the 9 programs. Okay. And we needed to put that roadmap together so that at least we have some guide, something that guides our actions, some rough vision. ultimately, I don't know if you were around on between February 3rd and 6th this year for the Southeast Vision 2050 Stakeholder Forum, where all the governors participated. 8,000 people came into Enugu for 4 days. That exercise is essentially the building blocks for the 25-year plan for the Southeast. So ultimately, once the work on that is finished, we will publicize the document for validation and for people's input. And once we firm it up, that becomes the Bible that guides our actions, right?
Yeah.
As the 25-year plan. But before that, we needed to already sort of start some work and, start engaging and start building out programs. So we had a strategic roadmap. And in that roadmap, there were about 8 to 9 programs. And one is the Southeast sort of regional security program, which really hinges on the support that we get from the states, because the state governors are the chief security officers. But they also asked that we look at a region-wide tech-based intelligence infrastructure. So there's some work being done around that. Second is the Southeast Agriculture Development Program, where we want to clear upwards of 50,000 hectares of land so that private sector investment and rural agriculture can be boosted, as the case may be. Number 3 is the Southeast Industrialization Program. I'm sure you've seen that we've visited a number of industrial parks in the region, Lion Business Park, visited Onitsha, and a number of places. Essentially, what that says is, as we start to get funding and we have an infrastructure budget, rather than building the 1 kilometer road in your village, I will appeal to you to go to your local government chairman and ask him for that. Okay. If you want a 3 kilometer road, I say, please go to your state commissioner of works. Let SEDC carry its own and open up industrial parks so that we stop a situation where we are building industries in every nook and cranny. Sometimes you hear our people, they will say, the Southeast is the most blessed place. Across the 1,044 wards, there's an industry there. That is a danger that is sitting in front of us because you can't do anything with it. I cannot provide a power solution to industries that are scattered in 1,044 wards. Because in organized societies, those industries that are scattered in 1,000 plus wards will be in 3 or 4 locations. So you can do power to one, you can do water to one, you can do this. You have to cluster the approach to development. That's what it is. It makes it easier. It makes the projects more bankable. It makes it easier to serve them. So that's why we're trying to say, with our own industrialization strategy, is that there are existing industrial parks already in the region. Yeah. There are existing special economic zones. Let's see how we can push in infrastructure to them. That's, for me, is the anchor of our industrialization policy, to support existing industrial parks or clusters or special economic zones with infrastructure. The next is what we call Southeast Project Preparation Facility. Let me unbundle it. It's very, very simple to explain. Right? Yes, let me explain. Let me unbundle it. As you are now, Ms. Omar, let's assume you are a state government or you are trying to build an infrastructure project in partnership with the state. You have an idea on this big agriculture project and you say you want to do a mega cassava to ethanol project, right? Maybe from your initial research, it costs $10 million or $20 million. But the big problem is, how do you raise that money? You have the idea, but you're struggling for how to raise the money. At the point where you have the idea, that project is just a concept. To get it to the point where you can go to BOI, you can go to Development Bank of Nigeria and apply for funding, you have to do something called project preparation or project development. Okay. So what that facility at SEDC is set up to do is be able to support people like you and say, so long as this project has this sort of region-wide impact, it has this level of scale, it addresses job creation and social impact and this, you can apply to the program and get support for the world-class consultants that will help you in documenting it, doing your feasibility studies, doing your return on investment analysis, doing your environmental, social, and impact assessment, so that when you're done, the Bible on that project that you get, you just take it and do a forwarding letter to BOI, and they can fund 50% of your project with debt. That's the only way we will unlock that capital, that huge infrastructure financing deficit that we have. We have to have good quality projects. Africa, Nigeria does not suffer from lack of capital. It suffers from quality project preparation, where you look at a document and all the possible risks have already been mitigated, and then your money comes in. And a few other programs, obviously, that we have is Southeast Venture Capital Program is a very critical one. It forms part of what we hope to do over the next year or two for the young people, because for us, they are the cornerstone of development. They're the people you have to invest in to safeguard tomorrow. And a few other exciting ones. While we're discussing all this, we have something in the community area for more grassroots. It's called the Southeast Community Social Impact Program, where some funds will be allocated to communities, and the communities have to then decide on where they want to channel it, and then we support. And last one is, which is the one I'm most excited about, right? Before we get there, the Southeast Project Preparation Facility works almost hand in hand with the Southeast Investment Company. So all these big projects like gas pipelines, gas projects, rail, regional rail, and all these different initiatives, those projects take time to develop. So you have to do the studies properly. I always use that. There's an example I always use. 20 years ago, I was a 19-year-old boy. I'm just giving you my age. But I was a 19-year-old boy in Lagos. And the man who is president today was governor then. And he announced 4 projects. Lagos, Lekki Free Trade Zone, Eco Atlantic, Lagos Light Rail, and Lekki Deep Seaport. And for the first 5 years, nobody saw a cement block on the ground. He was investing in studies, detailed engineering drawings, environmental impact assessment, all of these things. They were castigating him, criticizing him, saying he's a criminal, he has stolen money, the Lagos state government is just 20 years later. These 4 projects have redefined Lagos completely. You take Lekki Free Trade Zone, that's where Dangote is. $30 billion is sitting on one site. 5 times the size of the economy of Enugu State. One project, 30,000 staff, 26,000 people, Nigerians go to work there every day. 4,000 internationals every single day.
That's massive.
Eco Atlantic, the entire Atlantic Ocean was eating up Amadou Bello. They fixed that, and then some filled 1,000 hectares of the Atlantic. American embassies began building their largest embassy there. All the big banks, about 8 of them, are building their headquarters there. MTN headquarters there. Over 60, 70,000 people are going to work on construction sites there every day. Lagos Light Rail, funded entirely by the World Bank, is moving over 2 million people every day to work. Lekki Deep Seaport, studies were ready. The government took it to China. A company said, I'll put $1.2 billion and built it. Lagos State owns 20%. The China Harbour, so if it's their name, owns 75% of the project. None of these projects put one cement block for the first 4 years, but none of these projects, because of how they were packaged and prepared, none of them were funded by federal government. It was private capital and international development agencies. So we have to tell ourselves the truth. If we want an organized society, if we want gas pipelines popping around, if we want an industrialized region, we must plan for that. It is not something
it takes time.
It just takes time.
You don't just pop up and do things.
Southeast has never had a plan since 1964.
Okay, that's really long.
So we have to just tell ourselves the truth and try and put sentiments and emotions away and just say, let's roll our sleeves and do this work, right? And then obviously, lastly, the one I tell you I'm most excited about is what we call the Michael Okoye Fellowship for Young Leaders. Hopefully in August or September, the application portals go up, and young people who are passionate about public service, passionate about learning governance, will be able to apply to the program.
I think I like that part.
And then we think about maybe 7,000 to 8,000 people will apply. But the top 10, top 15 will get a year-long internship at the Southeast Development Commission, where they will be immersed in public policy, development, community stakeholder engagement, public-private partnerships, etc.
So will this be like hands-on or like a lecture?
Hands-on, every day. They become staff of the organization. They'll be working for 1 year. Then after that, they can then go and be placed in some of the best development institutions globally. But probably the next 100 or 200 next best 200 applications in that cohort would then get things like masters in public policy, masters in governance, masters in development economics and what have you. So essentially what this would then do is that it allows us to deliberately create a cohort over 5 years of 1,100 young people who are custodians of the development agenda of the Southeast, who see themselves as problem solvers, as architects of that future. And because that is always important. If you truly want us to be a Singapore or Malaysia, the one thing in those areas is that, in those countries, is that the bureaucracy, the people who work in government, are either just as smart or as well equipped as their private sector counterparts, or actually even sharper. So that when problems come, policy initiatives come, they speak the same language. That's the only thing that allows confidence to be instilled in government, and then for private sector's investment to come in. So that's what we are doing, more like the agenda that we're trying to implement whilst waiting for the 25-year plan to be put forward. And once that is done, that then becomes the guide for the work that we will do.
So you talked about the fellowship. When should we expect this to
like
start? Because I have a few people who will be very interested, and really? I think I am.
Are you a policy expert?
That's why they have the internship, right? Where we get to learn about stuff like this.
Are you between the ages of 21 and 30?
Yes.
Do you like development?
Yes.
Are you passionate about governance?
We're working on that area.
Are you passionate about impact?
Yes.
Do you see yourself as a change agent? Okay. No wahala. Because for me, what we're just trying to do is to see how you inspire the next generation to think a bit deeper about giving back, think a bit deeper about the society that they find themselves in. I always commend the program that I applied to, and everybody told me I was never going to get it, right? Because we are not the type of people they wanted, who are working in political organizations. But I took out my time. 2017, how old was I then? I don't know. How old am I now? 26? 20. So I think I was maybe like 30 or 31. It was called the Obama Fellowship for Young Leaders, Obama Leaders Africa program, the first cohort, until it sort of got a bit watered down. But that first one was when he had just got out of office.
With all the juice.
Dangote, Glazers, Stripe, it was well funded. You go for 5 days in Cape Town into a resort, and you go deep dive into understanding policy, why you should be impact focused, why you should see yourself as a problem solver and a solutions provider. And then you spend 3 days with Obama, spending time. So I applied, and they said, but at the end of the day, I got it. I was the only person from government from West Africa that made it to that program, right? And it was just a mind-blowing one for me. And it's in my mind, plus of to get that ability to sort of mix with other people who are like-minded, right? And then also get the theoretical training and then the discussions and to compare notes and share experiences. Then you juxtapose that with the practical experiences that I was getting in government. And this in my mind just sort of blew my mind, right? So I think it's always important to give young people the opportunity to express themselves, but also put them in situations that test their mettle, as the case may be, and that's the reason for the program. So just like the way SEVC was very clear and merit based, this one is probably going to be worse.
Okay. Can we get an expert?
So come prepared. That's all I say.
Qualifications.
Come prepared. No, nothing. It's just the application process, normal stuff. We've essentially inaugurated a small governing board to help us think through how to structure. We've given them.
So they're already in the planning phase.
Oh, definitely. Okay. So we're looking at probably August, September
of this year
for the application portals to come up. Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
So look out for it.
Okay.
And start preparing yourself already.
So this is one of the few programs that is partially funded by the government and directed at the Southeast.
Yes.
So people have these concerns that these things are just politics and not exactly development focused. So what do you have to say about that?
When I see criticisms online, when I see well thought out initiatives by government, and you have someone just come, reads the first line and just says, it's in the politicians and what have you. while you feel bad as someone who's on the inside, like working really hard to deliver the goods to the people who you are serving,
Yeah.
but you kind of also understand why they have found themselves there. Number of years of broken promises, number of years of huge policy announcements and no implementation, or when even implementation commences, they say, oh, it's the senator's brother, it's the commissioner's sister, it's the SEDCs that got it, and they just shared it to themselves. So I think I can understand why, but that's essentially why, that's the challenge we take on when we say we want to be public servants. It's our duty to continue to do things right, and ultimately there's nothing as good as word of mouth. You look at this sort of initiative now where the feedback is organic. People who have participated are the ones telling others. So we are confident that is the third Southeast pitch competition that will be probably 10 times more impactful, because people have seen the first one, and for this 1,200 that applied, there's probably 10,000 startups that say, it's government. And
Yes,
they say, no problem, we're coming for the next. And it just, so what essentially starts to happen is that credibility and trust continues to grow. Credibility and trust, in my mind, from my experience in government, is the most important piece to the puzzle of leadership. If people believe in you, if they trust that your actions are in their best interest, they'll give you all the support. So for us, that's why transparency is important. That's why merit is important. That's why credible processes and platforms are critical. But for the sustainability of this program, I would have told you that I would be greatly concerned that this program will, sort of be able to continue and be sustainable in the future if it was totally funded by SEDC. What we just did is to catalyze, and then the second other people's capital, other people's money comes in, it takes on a life of its own. We just become one of the smaller partners, whereas the private sector now controls it, and the private sector is focused on developing that program continuously. So I'm very confident that the work we're doing, and in the next 4 months or so, 3-4 months, by the time we close the fund and hit the first capital raise, it takes on a life of its own. It starts to grow, and subsequent programs, initiatives that will come out of it will not even be SEDC driven, but the most important thing, the name of the fund will be called Southeast Venture Capital Fund. Southeast Venture Capital Program. It is focused on the region, focused on innovation coming out of the region that is exportable to the world, focused on founders who are in the region that are struggling and need support, and even focused on some other applications or founders who are elsewhere but are saying, it is this region I want to start with, right?
Yeah.
And that's it.
All right. So just to be clear, all these plans are transparent. They are out there for everyone to see. We can go on your site and get all the information that we... Except the 70 pages long document.
We can. It's all on our website. It's all on our website. And the reason why we want to do that is to, like we said, credibility and trust. You want people to be able to fact check what you say. Is he just saying something? Does he just sound eloquent? Have these guys actually thought about it? You see it on our website, right? But I'll give an example. Yesterday we were meeting, like I told you, almost 60, 70 civil society organizations from all the states in the Southeast. And I talked about this program, I think, around innovation and why we wanted to ensure that it was credible and what have you. Yeah. One lady in front, forget her name, I think Ifeanyi or so, young lady, is a civil society practitioner out of Ebonyi State. She was looking at me and I could see the suspicion. She then pulls her phone, still looking at me. Wow, she said, this guy is just speaking English. And I didn't know what she was doing. So during question and answer section, she asked for the mic, and they give her the mic, and she says, "I must say, I'm very impressed."
When they start that way,
and she read her prompt to ChatGPT. That there's this man here, he says he works for SEDC, and they did Southeast Venture Capital Program. Is it really credible? And she says, "Wow." It says that this is the most credible venture capital program run by a government agency, and the structure is this. And so, and then, and she said, "I'm sold." So we live, and this is why, I often say when I'm speaking to younger people who are in public service, younger people who are commissioners, younger people who are SAs, I say, be careful of what you say. 20 years ago, I can sit here and just tell you, oh, no, in the next week, we'll raise $1 billion to transform this. How do you fact check it? To fact check, you write a letter. You say Freedom of Information Bill. You'll be looking for who you can pay in the office to extract some document. In today's world, Mesoma, you just go to AI. Has SEDC really done this? Do they really have a conceptual framework? Have they spent time thinking, what is my view on what they've done in the last 1 year? Is it credible? Has it been time wasting? And AI is scanning so many data points and is telling you exactly the view. So you have to really be, because building credibility and trust is important, and to achieve that, transparency is important, integrity is important, and a merit-based system is always critical. So we are very wary of just making outlandish claims. We like to ensure that the work is done properly and that when we are coming out to make a statement, it's backed with facts and evidence.
All right. So I think one thing we can leave here with today is that SEDC is there not just for to say really big promises, but they are there for, the people. They are focused on developing the Southeast, and they have you at heart.
Yes, no, that's the focus. And the last point I want to leave with is Southeast Development Commission is a regional development commission. So a lot of what we do is driven by, is there regional impact, right?
Not just one state.
There are things that, exactly. It could be located in one state, but it has a regional view to it, right? Okay. So, and I say this so that people continue to understand, while they're wondering why are we not fixing one problem in their own village. If we start that, we lose sight of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, like I always want to say, is to become a world-class economy in this region, there's a funding gap of $9 billion. How do we fill that annually? How do we fill it annually? So we have to do things properly. Last point is, I just want to commend, the state governments in the region, local governments that support the state governments, because to do the work that we're doing, it requires very close collaboration, and the support we continue to get from the 5 governors, their different governments, has been immense over the last 1 year, and because without that support and alignment, you can't get anything done, right? So it's always just to say, appreciate them, and also the private sector, the diaspora. People should just hang in there. We're set up to solve problems, but we're going to be very methodical and systematic about solving the problems, because when we do that, then it means we can achieve sustainability and systems that work without Mark being there to say, do this. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. If this is one of your fears, you can always go to their website and do your fact check. You can ask ChatGPT, give it a prompt, and you can get all the information that you need. Thank you once again for joining us for this conversation and giving us insight into all that we didn't know. We are really grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Soma. I really enjoyed myself. It's just that you didn't give me coffee. I would have liked coffee.
Don't call me out. Don't call me out on social media. And to our viewers, thank you for joining this conversation. Of course, like our page, follow, comment, and stay in touch with all our conversations. Thank you once again.